For this class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get a really nice paint job, or stain job. Sorry, let me start that one over. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break this paint job down for you. We're not painting. Now is we're going to break this stain job down by the numbers. Really easy. I'm going to use Walttools Tru-Tints. I've got 9 colors that I'm going to be laid out for this. And if you follow this step-by-step procedure, you're going to get it every time. It's very easy. I'm going to break it down. A lot of guys struggle with stain jobs. A lot of guys struggle with color in general. But it doesn't have to be that difficult. It's still a step-by-step process. And really, that's all there is to it. If you just follow these steps, you got good products. And take your time, enjoy it. And once you get over this hurdle, you're going to have no problem. And then we can tweak in other jobs. We can tweak the colors and we can tweak things. But out here, considering everything else that we've already stained, I'm going to try to keep that in the same family. So, first thing is we're going to talk about my joint color. Okay, so sometimes joint colors can vary, but I like to stick with Boulder. Boulder is a great all-around stone color. It's on the darker side, and I'm going to basically tag all the joints. So that's going to be step number 1. I'm going to tag the joints. And I'm only going to work about a 4-foot to 6-foot span. Okay, I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I don't want any joint color to burn or soak in and create a stain, so to speak, that's obvious. I want the color to blend. So I'm only going to work in like a 4 to 6 foot area, and then I'm going to follow immediately up with 3 colors: champagne, hazelnut, and dark walnut. So I've got my joint color, Boulder, and I've got champagne, hazelnut, and dark walnut. These 3 are going to be the follow-up colors. And then from there, we're going to work our way down. Now what I'm doing is I'm looking for individual rock colors. I'm looking for colors that are separative. I don't want a dark color, dark color, dark color, dark color, and then a lighter color, lighter color, lighter color, lighter color, lighter color. I want a mix-up because contrast is key. That's what keeps the mind engaged. You can see how the colors work off one another, and that's important. So we're going to start with Boulder. I'm just going to tag my joints real quick. I like to hit the tops as well, not just the sides and the bottom. You want to make sure you get underneath the plastic. And I'm just basically tagging these quickly. Right in the deep joint. That's going to darken up that joint. Okay? Now I'll pick a color, I'll pick a stone or 2, and I'll just tag those. Then I'll come back with champagne, and I'll tag a stone, 1 or 2 stones, maybe a corner. Hazelnut's pretty dark or darker. then my darkest color, which was dark walnut. I'm just going to kind of pick up the rest. So if you see now, I've got colors that are blending, and those black lines from the boulder are still there, and they look really prominent now, but this all dries down, okay? All of this will just subtly dry down. I don't want to do anything else to it. One of the big problems that guys have with staining is they keep messing with it and keep adding more material and adding more material. And then an hour later, they look back at their job, and it's like everything's the same color because it's just wet on wet, wet on wet, blending, 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 and it's literally turning the entire wall into the same color rock. And only the top rocks have differential in color because everything underneath of them is just bleeding into itself, creating a completely, you know, by the time you get to the bottom of the wall, it's all the same color. So we're just going to let that sit just like that. And this is step one. You use your boulder to create your joints. Then you come back with dark walnut, champagne, and hazelnut, and you're just completely random. All right? Don't freak out. If you start to see big runs, that actually plays into your advantage. Okay? A big run here or there, not a big deal. All right? So that's steps 1 and 2. We're going to continue because we can't do anything more with this until we get all of this done. So what I'm going to do now is I want a guy to come in here, and I want you to take the boulder, some guy take the boulder, and start tagging the joints, and then 3 other guys, you know, if we have them, are just going to take a color and just tag randomly the colors, okay? So I need a boulder guy to hit all the joints, and I need another guy or one guy. It doesn't matter who does it. I don't want to do it because I know how to do this. You guys need the experience, not me. And what the biggest thing is don't put your color. If you tag a stone, don't do a stone of the same color anywhere near it. Jump over a guy to get to another area. Okay, just give him a chance. Just give him a chance. Larry, you're going to want to be a lot more liberal.
A little more.
Yep, and hit the joint too. And then when you're done with an area, Larry, you can hit like one stone.
Okay.
Completely, because that's part of the base.
Fred.
Give it a lot more, Marshall. That's kind of a lighter color, so and try to tag the top of it. Yeah, and that'll bleed some of the black into it as well.
Since we're all doing it, can I keep going, or you want me to stop?
Keep moving.
Okay.
Keep moving. Larry, come back and tag one of those big stones with your boulder completely.
This one needs some color. I don't know what.
Yeah, so you're worried about getting it close to each other.
Well, we'll both hit it then.
Yeah, split a rock in half if you have to. Keep going.
Here's not hit.
You don't want to give too much time. You want to be able to blend all that stuff together.
Don't cross the streams.
Ghost hunter.
Don't cross.
And don't get the bugs in there.
This big one's mine.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's
Cover the whole rock, Scott.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, you
can have that one.
You're gonna hold them all.
Scott, go over to where Marshall just was and hit the joint real quick, right in the middle. Yep. See how that bled down?
That looks good.
Don't get crazy with the cheese whiz, guys. Stay on target. Follow up behind Larry. It's looking good though. I like the separation.
You can do kind of halves.
I feel like those two got missed.
There's a couple rocks over here that have boulder that are bleeding, but they don't have any other color on them. What does take a little bit of time is the if we were on a hot day, we would want to move a little quicker
You don't want it dry.
because you don't want it to dry. But we do want it to dry because in order for us to go to the next steps, we need it to be set up and dry. Now, so step 3, what we're going to do is we're going to come back with our lighter colors, and we're using Way, Storm, Bay Leaf, and Bluestone. Now, these colors are more like splotching, a spritz, a splotch. We're just trying to create a little bit of color separation in the stone surface itself. At this time, you can see we're fairly dry. You want to be dry because if we're not dry, we're going to have just more bleeding, and the stuff we're putting on now is not going to show up. So I'll start with Way and Storm. So I'm just going to put a little bit of splotch there. Once again, I'm just going to kind of move around. Just going to splotch it just a little bit. I'll come back with Storm, which is a completely different color. I'll just pop it a little bit. I'm just being very random. Bay Leaf, which is like a little bit of a green. Once again, just a few areas. And then Bluestone, which is a little bit of a blue, gray. And I'm just going to pop. I'm looking for edges. I'm looking for even like the middle of a stone. I might just randomly pop it like that. Just looking for little areas that will kind of accent it just slightly. These aren't big. These are not big changes. These are very, very subtle. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take black. Now black's kind of dangerous because it's very bold, very hard to get rid of. So you want to basically take your squirt nozzle and you want to get it to where it mists and atomizes. Once you get it to where it atomizes, you're going to stand back and you're just going to pop it and you're going to speckle your stone just like that. And all you're doing is speckling it. And just creating little splotches on the stone just like that. That's it. All you're doing is just lightly hitting that that squirt bottle so it just squirts out a little bit of material. Once that material is out there, if you do make a mistake and you start to blotch it, it starts to run or a big blast of black comes out, once again come back with your Orange-Crete brushes. I like to use these because they're frayed at the end. It's kind of like a faux finishing brush, and they're frayed at the end, and you can basically beat that out of the stonework because it's still water-based. So it hasn't had a chance to really bite down in there. Not like an acid stain, it's going to start burning immediately. But these brushes are good for fanning out color and spreading around the color. Now, let's back step just a minute. Let's say that you didn't get a lot of color separation, okay? There wasn't a lot of different colors. You could always go back before we hit this step that I just did, and you can highlight some of your stones. So let's quickly do that. I'm going to take the hazelnut and the black walnut. I'm going to come down here to another section, and I'm just going to highlight one more time. Okay. Just going to highlight it. Now, when that dries down, it'll be a little darker. You shouldn't have to do this. You really shouldn't have to do it. If you're doing your job right and you're putting enough material on the surface, you should have good color separation all throughout the wall. Now, we're going to let this dry down. I don't want to do anything to it. And it's kind of raining today. That's why we're under a tent. So you never want to do this without having cover because the water will just take everything right out of the rock. But for right now, we're just going to let that hang out and let that set up. And when that's dry, we'll come back with the final step. When you're doing stain work on areas that are over slabs or other decorative concrete, and you don't want to go through the hassles of plastic and duct tape or blue tape or whatever tape is out there, believe me, I've tried them all. The stain runs down, wicks underneath of it. It's kind of a hassle. So one of the things I like to do is I take kitty litter and I just splash kitty litter up against the base. And then when, of course I use a lot more, but I just pack it up against there. In this case, the floor is going to get an overlay over this whole thing. So I would cover this whole area about a foot out with kitty litter, and that way when I'm squirting and I'm spraying, it just drops down into the kitty litter and gets absorbed. It's a great trick. It works really good. And many times if you're carving stone and you carve up underneath of there and there's a joint underneath there, I just fill the joint all together. Then I come back with a hose and I blow it out. It's a really good trick to keep the stain on the wall and off of your decorative concrete. So the last step, what we're going to do is we're going to take a sanding block. This is actually a diamond pad. A lot of the countertop guys use them for finishing and correcting things. But because of the diamond pad here, they don't break down like the sanding blocks that you might find at Home Depot or Lowe's. And I'm just going to take this, I'm just going to highlight some of the edges here. So in doing that, I don't want to hit the whole stone. I just want to hit a couple highlights, a couple edges. A lot of guys get kind of carried away and they hit the whole stone. This is just to simulate, how the rock might have been tumbling around on the skid before the mason got to put it together. So I'm just looking for a couple areas, a couple ridges. I might take an area and kind of scuff up the whole, a whole corner. But I'm not going to do that with every stone. I'm just going to lightly hit this. And let's say that I mess it up. Let's say I get too crazy. I turn around. And my worker just completely trashed my stone. Or maybe the worker does this and you say, oh my gosh, I gotta put that guy, do that again, do that over everything. I'm just saying, there's a lot of options. If this is too much or you got a little bit of accenting going on and this is over the top, just a little bit too much, the guy got carried away, it's okay, don't freak out. So we've got a little bit of highlighting taking place. Just real light. I personally like to hit it just a little bit. But let's get back to this problem child where the guy got a little crazy. You know, the client comes out and he says, hey, I don't like that too much. It's okay. Take your brush, spray a little, you know, dark color on there, and just bury it. Because it's stained, it's going to cover up that exposed concrete, and there you go. You're back to normal. Now, if you want to go back and add a little bit more, just to kind of bring it into what the rest of it is like, that's not a problem. These are the tools that we like to use. I've got my stains. I've got my brushes right here. I've got my sanding blocks. This is the recipe that I use, basically. This particular stone, we'll just call it the Pacific Northwest stone. So if you're going to buy it or you're going to pick up these colors and you want to use this method to get this look, this is the formula to use.